good morning. Now that the technical difficulties kind of come back, I'm not very good in this aspect. I'm pretty good in my field though, in the best way I can. My name is Dr. Bindu Babu. I am going to tell you a little bit about myself before I go into about narcissism. So I'm actually a medical physician, and I was going through my own journey where I was picking up things that didn't make sense to me scientifically. But I was very left-brained. When I say left-brained, that means I can't go beyond science or some sort of study or something that gave me some sort of concrete evidence in my hand, something tangible. So, but I was always very intuitive. I was always picking up things, but I always just kind of brushed it off. I mean, most of us aren't, unless we're really into the meditation practice, we're not very mindful to recognize certain things that's not tangible. So, I read a book by Dr. Brian Weiss, MD, Many Lives, Many Masters. Has anyone heard? Yes? Yes? Okay, great. So he's also, that resonated with me a lot because he's also a medical physician, scientific based. He was Harvard or Yale trained. I can't remember off the bat right now. I'm completely jet lagged. And he was the head of department for psychiatry in a hospital in Florida. So he was doing hypnotherapy on his patients, and he tapped into their past lives. So this was something very foreign. This was back in the 70s, 80s, where we called this new age of spirituality wasn't very common, very taboo. It would have destroyed his career if he brought this out with all his scientific publications and so forth. So it took him almost 15, 20 years before he came out with the book, and he's done remarkable, remarkable healing work all over the world. He's been on Oprah, he's been on all sorts of media and newscasts and so forth, and him and his wife are pretty much dedicated in healing. And me being the person that I am, I needed my concrete, so I went after him and I became trained by him to become a past life regression therapist. Then I decided to become a Reiki master. I did my doctorate in natural medicine, and then I did my PhD in integrative medicine so that I can have a scientific base as well as my own intuitive ability to combine both, and now that's what I do. I help heal people. It's my passion, it's my joy, it fulfills my life purpose, and it's very rewarding for me. So, and I recently just became the Goodwill Ambassador for humanitarian work for women. So what I'm going to discuss today is a little bit about narcissism, so that you can have some concept of what the personality disorder is. And I don't know how to put this. Okay. So narcissist. A narcissist is defined by the Mayo Clinic as a mental disorder in which people have an inflated sense of their own importance and a deep need for admiration. They believe they're superior to others and have little regard for other people's feelings. Behind the mask of this ultra confidence and ultra ego lies a fragile self-esteem, vulnerable to the slightest criticism.
Right?
I'm not a person to confirm that. Okay, so, but you know, we're all, anyway, so they're generally focused on themselves, okay? They cannot really see their partner as a separate person. And that it's not only inclusive of relationships, we're also talking about family members as well, okay? They see their partner as someone to fill their void, to feed their needs to their extreme underlying vulnerability. They are consciously and subconsciously takers. So when I say that, that means they pretty much feed off of you and your energy and who you are and your being, and how much you can curtail yourself to their needs. So usually a narcissistic relationship is generally with a codependent. So a person who needs the love and validation from somebody, and a narcissist is a person who needs you to basically, how can I say it without I'm about to say kiss your ass. That's really the ability of it, but it's basically you're just kowtowing to that person and doing whatever you can to make that person feel like they're up in the air. So narcissist partners usually have difficulty really loving someone else. because they don't love themselves. So they don't understand what love is. So they will give the love or the ability of what they think love is, okay? Some circumstances are stemming from childhood. They have made the person to feel worthless, unvalued, and this is deep-rooted, that they seek constant validation desperately. So, narcissists are now when you look at a narcissist, you won't even know they're a narcissist. First of all, they don't understand they're a narcissist either. And you won't even understand they're narcissists because they're very charming, captivating people. They're usually the center of the attention. They walk in and they're just absolutely fabulous, okay? And they gain your trust and love and extract all their good qualities with professions of ideal and everlasting love. And this is in a relationship aspect. And that's generally known as the honeymoon phase. That means when they first get, and it's very rapid, okay? So this is like within the first 2 weeks you meet somebody, they throw the flowers, they throw the chocolates, they throw this everlasting I love you, the soulmate connection. I mean, they are very energetically into you that you actually feel like this, you and this person are meant to be for the rest of your life kind of connection. Then the phase will come where they display the love of affection will fade. The narcissist will now demand more and more from the partner while giving less by criticizing, nitpicking, or producing a hostile environment. The partner in turn desperately tries to please and find a remedy so they can have once that perfect relationship again. So when I say that, initially it's so much love bombing, okay, love bombing. And all of a sudden, when the narcissist knows they have you in their hand, this is the perfect time they know your weakness. And your weakness is their strength. So basically, they kind of pull that rug out of you where you don't know what hit you, and they criticize you for everything you do. And the more that you sit there and try to cultivate yourself and change yourself to please them, the more their ego is inflated, okay? And you would be surprised because many people would think it's kind of logical. Someone treats you bad, just walk out, right? If someone abuses you, in the sense physical, hits you, well, that's a no-brainer. Walk out. Why would you put yourself, it's your fault, right? This is the tendency of people, because this is the logic. But if it was that simple, they wouldn't be in it. And usually these women, or men, but mostly women, are very independent, strong women. We're not talking about somebody who's uneducated or low socioeconomic situation. We're talking about women who are CEOs, independent on their own, financially independent. It's not about brain power or a lack of intelligence. It's the emotional connection and the bond that the narcissist really takes that person in to completely confuse you, okay? So much so, it becomes a routine. It's called the hot and cold routine. It's a cycle. And they never take ownership of their actions. It's always your fault, okay? Everything that happens in a relationship, well, I'm not giving you this much love because you did this to me. This is what you deserve, okay? Eventually leading the partner, they end up segregating from their friends and family. Exposure to a narcissist rage, even blaming you for the cause, constant walking on eggshell feeling because you don't know what you're doing. Something you say or do can actually make that person feel like, oh, if I do this, he's gonna get angry. If I do this, so you're constantly on eggshells. And you basically lose yourself. You lose your self-esteem, you lose your independence, you lose the person you are, and you're pretty much left with the shell of yourself. So this is where I bring quantum medicine. So I've already explained logic doesn't really work here as much. Yes, you have psychotherapy, which is fantastic. I am always pro psychiatry. You do have medications that are out there, antidepressants for anxiety, so forth. But as you know, in the pharmaceutical world, these only alleviate the symptoms. They don't solve your problem, okay? So what happens? How do you come out of it? How do you heal yourself? How do you become your inner being or your person again? And this is where I bring quantum medicine approach. It's based on quantum physics, the power of the consciousness. It seeks to integrate various parts of the conventional and alternative medicine. quantum entanglement of body, mind, and spirit was proven almost over 100 years ago by Albert Einstein and so forth, and they proved the preeminence of energy over the matter of most successful theory in mathematics and physics in human history. This was known as the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum physics. This interpretation was recently validated in July 2012 with the discovery of Higgs boson, the God particle, and Higgs field. These ideas suggest not only that the living system can recognize electromagnetic fields, but they also play an essential role in the body's survival. There is now a growing list of world-renowned scientists, including German biophysicist Fritz Popp and so forth, and they've done groundbreaking research, written books, and it appears that every function in the body depends on the correct energy that you're exposed to. So, the quantum healing modalities and epigenetics. According to Dr. Bruce Lipton, who's actually faculty for quantum, he's one of the, he's part of my faculty. I'm the professor of holistic entrepreneurship, and he's for epigenetics. He's an amazing man. He's done so much research on epigenetics that says our mind can rewrite our genes. That genes and DNA can be manipulated by a person's belief structure. There's so much science behind it of how much we can actually prevent cancer, physical disease with our mindset, okay? He has shown his research that genes do not determine our health, but rather genes are turned on and off influences outside the cell. If we realize this idea that we can have the ability of the power of ourselves with our mindset, right? So change our beliefs, thus changing our messages to ourselves, we can heal ourselves. We have the innate ability to heal ourselves. Even simple studies such as the placebo effect, right? You put a person on a blood pressure medication, or you put a person on a statin for cholesterol, and then you put another person and tell them it's a blood pressure medication, right? The mind is already set that, oh, I'm on a pressure medication. And both parties' pressure is decreased.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's psychological because your mindset, and that's what reprograms the cells in your body, and that's where your pressure goes down, or disease process, or even cancer, whatever it may be. Okay, so the most important thing is, and yet that's the placebo effect. That's what we call it. Oh, it's a placebo effect.
Mm-hmm.
But why? Why does the placebo effect work? It's just under the table. So what I do. Right? I do quantum-based life coaching, meditation, and Reiki. We reprogramming the thinking towards positivity and gratitude by learning forgiveness to oneself and the other. So when I say that, in this situation of what I'm speaking about, women are pretty much a shell of themselves. Shell. They don't know how to function. We're talking about very strong, very independent, very established, well-educated people. And they've lost themselves, they don't have their own identity, they lost their inner core, their complete being. How do you come out of that? There's so much fear, okay? As it is in society, even if you don't have a narcissistic relationship, even if it's just as simple as, I don't like you anymore, to get a divorce is considered a complete no-no, a taboo. Your children are gonna suffer, you're gonna suffer, there's financial aspects behind it. What will people say, right? Oh, you're a broken family. There's all sorts of labeling, all sorts of judgment. That itself is so much pressure for a human being to live their life purpose or to live in happiness or desire, right? Because you have everything about validation from everyone else. So this is not just about narcissism or toxic relationships, mental abuse or physical abuse. We're just talking about regular cultural bias that you kind of have to pull yourself out of, right? So what I do is mindset. Do these people pay your bills? No. Figure things out into your mind of what makes you happy. You have one life. You have to live it. You can't sit there and at the end of your time, what do you have in your hand? You have to feel some sort of fulfillment or some sort of concept in your heart or your mind or your brain or anything of who you are as an inner being to live the life you deserve and to be happy. Right? Every religion teaches you that. Be happy, be kind to each other, be loving to each other. Why not? Right? So, forgiveness. And why do we forgive people? Not because, hey, it's okay that you did whatever you did. We're forgiving you because I don't want to sit in temper and anger because that's only giving me disease. Because that's negative thinking. So negative thinking is reprogramming my cells and hi, Cancer. Okay? So it was kind of like, the speaker before who was talking about, Dr. Lara, you were speaking about the physical activity, right? And then you were saying that the lifespan of anxiety and depression in certain people who have diabetes, right, are less. Think about it. It makes sense, right? How did they get this disease process? Anxiety, the stress, it changes your cell structure. So of course you're not going to live long. You're not happy to live. Do you want to live? Right? If you're depressed, you're battling every day to live or not to live, right? No fulfillment in life, right? And that's why physical activity is absolutely a necessity because you have endorphins and so forth. So it was a wonderful presentation. So meditation, the purpose of meditation is to slow down the mind, becoming mindful, strengthening your intuition, also known as your gut, or your sixth sense. How many of us, logically, let's say, you're buying a house, okay? You've signed the deal, the mortgage is set, everything is in place. You have like the banker, the real estate, all these different agents. You're sitting in the room and you're like, something's telling me not to do this. Don't do it. And of course you're sitting there like, well, the banker's here, this is here, that's there, this is there. I may lose like a couple of grand. I'm not walking out of this now. I'm too far. Even weddings. I don't know if I really want to marry this guy anymore, right? And then you're like, no, you know what? I'm going to go through it. Your gut told you no. And you do it, and then at the end you're like, I shouldn't have done it. I lost $3 grand, but now I lost 1.5, whatever, for this house, or whatever it is. Or there's always a gut instinct that becomes so much stronger within yourself to make your decisions for life, for what you are. You become very connected to your inner core and your inner being. So studies state that meditation for just 30 minutes a day alone can be effective as a use of antidepressants. Isn't that something? Mm-hmm. So I just want to talk about Sarah Lazarus, very brief. So Sarah was told not to go for physical therapy, for running. She wasn't allowed to run because of whatever health ailments that she had. So she decided she wanted to be physical fit for so many reasons and decided to do yoga. As she went to yoga, and I don't know if any of you have gone to yoga, they're usually done by very spiritual people. So they sit there and they explain a lot about how the benefits of meditative practices, how it kind of heals your mind, body, spirit. So her being a scientist and her being left brain, she didn't want to believe it. She just thought it was all just this new age spirit thing. But however, over the weeks that she attended yoga classes, she realized that she felt calmer than she had in years. Initially dismissing this change as a placebo effect. See, I don't understand this. I mean, someone needs to explain to me about the placebo effect. How do you just, like, you put a label on something, you're like, I'm just going to dismiss it. It's just placebo. What is placebo? Okay? Anyway, she soon realized that the yoga... Okay. She soon realized that the yogic meditation was not only helping her body, it was also centering her mind, leaving her more energetic and more focused. So she decided to take the available evidence of the benefits of meditation and test it with brain scans using modern technology like the fMRI scans, okay? So they took people who've never meditated before. And the reason so, and I didn't write in the slide, is because she actually initially took patients who were meditated but noticed the gray matter was more abundant. So out of that bias, she scratched that because she saw that it was because of meditation. But to prove that fact, she took people who never meditated and put one group through an 8-week mindfulness-based stress reduction program. Lazarus team found differences in the brain volume after 8 weeks in 5 different regions in the brain of the 2 groups. In the group that learned meditation, they found thickening in 4 regions. Primary difference they found in the posterior cingulate, which is involved in mind wandering, and self-relevance, basically self-importance, right? The the left hippocampus, which assists in learning, cognition, memory, and emotional regulation. The temporoparietal junction, which is associated with perspective taking, empathy, and compassion. An area of the brain stem called the pons, where a lot of regulatory transmitters are produced. And neurotransmitters, as we know, are dopamine, serotonin, gabapentin. These are the ones that give you the whole flight and fight and the happiness and so forth. The amygdala, the fight or flight part of the brain, which is important for anxiety, fear, and stress in general. So these have increased. That area got smaller in the group that went through mindfulness-based stress reduction program. So that means anxiety, fear, and stress went down. The change correlated in the reduction in stress levels. Recent research has begun to detect links between activity in the region of the brain called the default mode network and mental disorders like depression, anxiety, and schizophrenia. Meditation has been associated with reduction in activity in the default mode network, hence alleviating stress, depression, and anxiety. And that's the brain. And if you can see, look at it. Look at the normal person. After 15 minutes of meditation, look how much the brain has centered. So meditation balances both brain hemispheres, allowing them to work in sync. What is the result? Neurocommunication of thoughts and responses multiply, resulting in better performing, more integrated system, optimizing both mental and emotional health. I think Einstein, right? He used both brain sides.